Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive. Today we're going to be taking a look at the teachings of Osho.
Osho.
Yeah, Osho, a very well-known spiritual teacher, and we've got a book of his and a few lectures that we're going to be kind of pulling apart and looking for those golden nuggets of wisdom. And
Nuggets.
it comes to truth and ego and desire, so
Yeah,
that
it's
should be.
what I find so fascinating with Osho is
Yeah,
he kind of flips the script a little bit on how we think about spirituality and religion, because
right.
it's less about what you know and more about
Oh,
just knowing itself.
oh, now that's
That's neat.
that's deep. I like that already.
Yeah, yeah, pure awareness, like just being,
So it's not about having all the answers,
no.
having a different way of experiencing the world. Is that kind of
Yes.
what we're getting at here?
And he uses this really clever analogy of a mirror.
Oh, okay.
So we can think about science as like a mirror reflecting the external world, right?
Okay.
Observing, analyzing, gaining knowledge. But religion
Right.
is like that mirror turning inward,
Uh-huh.
becoming aware at its own reflecting nature.
Oh, so instead of looking at what's in the mirror, we're
Yes.
looking at the mirror.
You're looking at the fact that it's
At
reflecting.
the act of reflecting, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so a shift from content to consciousness.
Okay.
And that's,
I'm starting to get it.
yeah, and that's really crucial to understanding, like,
Okay.
the rest of his teachings, especially when it comes to the ego.
Ah, the ego.
Yes,
Now, Osho had some pretty strong opinions when it came to
he did.
but the ego. I've heard it described as like a beggar.
Yes, a beggar for power, a beggar for
A
validation.
beggar.
Always comparing, always wanting more.
Yeah.
Never truly satisfied.
Never enough.
Never enough. And that's, this constant striving is what causes so much of our misery.
So if the ego is the source of unhappiness, then
Yeah.
what's the alternative?
Well, he introduces this idea of compassion.
Okay.
And, true compassion arises when the mind is quiet, when we can recognize the abundance that already exists within us.
We're so busy looking about it outside of us
Exactly.
that we don't realize we have it within.
Yeah, and he tells this great story about this realized master
Okay.
who had like 30 years of spiritual work that was seemingly destroyed by this one simple teaching.
30 years?
30 years. This guy was hardcore dedicated to his practice, believed it was the key to his enlightenment.
Right.
And then he hears this teaching, and it just like
Uh,
shook him to his core.
wow. What could unravel 30 years of dedicated practice?
Let go.
Let go. That's
Let
it.
go.
I mean, I can see how that would be
Yeah.
earth-shattering.
But what are you doing all this for,
Yeah, you think you're doing it right, and then someone says, let go.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's exactly what Ovid was getting at.
Yeah.
It's like, our spiritual practices serving us?
Right.
Or are they feeding the ego's need for control and certainty?
That's a good point, because I think sometimes we can hold on to certain beliefs
Yes.
to avoid facing...
The unknown, the vastness of existence.
Yeah, and that actually leads us very nicely into his perspective on belief itself.
Yes.
And I've heard some interesting things about...
He had a very radical perspective
Yeah.
because he says belief is a barrier to truth.
Really? I always thought that you had to
Yeah.
have beliefs
That's what we're conditioned to think. But
to kind of grow spiritually.
he says truth needs no belief
Okay.
because it's self-evident.
So we shouldn't be attached to beliefs.
Right. Belief is just a way to avoid the direct experience of what is.
So kind of like open-minded skepticism.
Yes.
The willingness to question everything.
Absolutely.
Even our most cherished beliefs.
Yeah, yeah. He's urging us to drop the crutches of belief and just like dare to stand naked in the face of reality.
Wow. It's about seeing things as they are.
As they are.
Without the filter.
Without the filters,
Yeah.
without the preconceived notions.
Now, this is making me think about some of my own beliefs.
Yeah.
And how maybe holding on to them too tightly is actually
Yeah.
preventing me from seeing
Yeah, could be.
the bigger picture.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And that's the beauty of his teachings, is like
Yeah.
it shakes things up and invites you to see the world through fresh eyes.
Yeah.
And speaking of shaking things up,
Yeah.
let's talk about desire.
Desire. Ooh, big topic.
Big topic. A driving force behind so much of human behavior.
And I know that Osho has some
He does.
rather unconventional views on
Yeah.
this topic as well.
He does. And this is where things get a bit paradoxical.
Okay.
Because sometimes he talks about longing as like this divine force. And then other times it's like this hindrance. So how
So
to get...
differentiate
Yeah, it can be confusing.
between the two.
So think about it like this: pure longing
Okay.
is a natural yearning for expansion,
Okay.
for connection, for something more.
Okay.
It's like that sunflower that's reaching for the sun.
Right.
It's an energy that propels us forward towards growth and evolution.
So it's not about wanting specific things.
Not necessarily, no.
But a deeper yearning.
Yeah, like a spiritual hunger,
Mm.
the energy of possibility,
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
becoming, and that's what he considers divine.
Yeah.
But then there's the kind of desire that gets fixated on specific objects.
Right. That new car.
New car.
Or that, perfect relationship.
Yeah, yeah.
That will make us happy.
The achievement that will finally make you happy.
And that's where it becomes the trap.
That's where it becomes the trap.
Because we're so attached to having that thing.
Attached to the outcome.
That
Yeah.
we lose sight of what was actually driving us in the first place.
You get so focused on acquiring the object that you lose sight of the deeper longing that was driving you in the first place.
It's happened to me so many times where I
Right.
thought, if I just get that one thing, I'll be happy.
Yeah, and then you get it, and you're like,
It's fleeting. It's never enough.
yeah, it's never enough.
Yeah.
It's like you're chasing shadows.
Yeah. Always looking outside of ourselves.
Always seeking satisfaction outside yourself when actually it already exists within.
Yeah. And I think Osha's point is that the desire itself
Yeah.
isn't the problem.
It's not the energy of desire.
Yeah.
It's the clanging,
the attachment.
the attachment that creates the suffering.
Right. So how do we,
It's,
I guess, how do we avoid that trap?
well, that's where his teachings on awareness and non-attachment come in.
Okay.
It's about becoming more conscious of our desires,
Right.
observing them without judgment,
Okay.
allowing them to arise and pass without getting caught in their grip.
So we're riding the waves.
Yes, you're riding the waves.
Without being swept away.
Without getting swept away.
Yeah. Okay.
And that takes practice.
I bet it does.
Yeah.
But if we can master that skill,
But it can lead to profound freedom and fulfillment.
freedom and fulfillment, that's what we're all looking for.
Exactly.
Right? So we've talked about awareness.
Yeah.
We've talked about questioning our beliefs.
Yes.
Embracing the unknown.
Yeah.
And relating to our desires
Consciously.
in a more conscious way.
Yeah.
It's a lot to digest,
It is.
but very thought-provoking.
It is, and there's so much more to explore.
Okay, let's keep going.
What's particularly fascinating is how he connects all of this to a three-step path
Three-step path.
for moving beyond the limitations of the ego and towards greater freedom and compassion.
Ooh, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready to...
Are you ready for the 3 steps?
Give me the steps.
All right, we'll get to those steps.
Yeah.
All right, so those 3 steps.
Yeah, give me those 3 steps.
We were talking about Osho's roadmap to move beyond the ego
Yeah.
and tap into a deeper wellspring of freedom and compassion.
Yeah, it sounds very intriguing.
It does sound a little abstract.
Well, give it to me.
Osho's ideas often start out
Yeah.
sounding way out there, but then he brings them down to earth in a way that's like surprisingly practical.
Okay, I like practical.
Yeah. Yeah, so the first step is all about shifting from thinking to feeling.
Thinking to feeling okay.
Yeah, and it's not about like abandoning logic altogether,
Right.
but more about becoming aware of our thoughts, observing them without judgment.
So kind of detaching?
Yeah, creating space
Yeah.
between yourself and that constant chatter
Right.
of the mind.
Don't believe everything you think.
There you go.
Yeah.
So by becoming more mindful of our thoughts, we create this space to access a deeper level of experience,
Okay.
the realm of feeling.
The realm of feeling.
And this isn't about like indulging in emotions
Right.
or being ruled by them.
Yeah.
It's about connecting with a more intuitive, heartfelt way of knowing.
It sounds like emotional intelligence.
Yeah, like tuning into that inner compass
Yeah.
rather than just like being bombarded by all the mental noise.
Okay.
So as we become more attuned to our feelings, we begin to connect with a deeper sense of being,
Okay.
our true nature, beyond the limitations of the ego.
Okay.
And that brings us to step 2.
Step 2, from feeling to being.
From feeling to being.
Now we're getting...
Yeah, we're going deeper.
We're going deep now.
Deeper waters here.
What does it mean to connect with our being?
Oh, this is where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
Because he's pointing to something beyond our thoughts and emotions.
Yeah.
And even our sense of self.
Right.
It's about tapping into that core essence
Okay.
that exists beneath all the layers.
Can you give me a real-world example of what that would?
Think about those moments
Yeah.
when you're completely absorbed in something you love.
Okay, yeah.
Maybe it's playing music, painting,
Right.
having a deep conversation.
Yeah.
You lose track of time.
Right.
Your sense of self fades away.
Yeah.
There's just this pure sense of flow and awakeness.
Being in the flow state.
Yes, that's being.
Okay, yeah.
That's what he means by being
So being completely present
Yeah.
in the moment without...
fully immersed in the experience.
Yeah, without the mental chatter.
Without the self-consciousness.
Yeah. Okay, I got it.
That's the state he encourages us to cultivate.
All right.
A state of pure presence,
Okay.
of being fully alive in the moment.
But the journey doesn't stop there.
It doesn't.
Because we've got step 3,
Step
from
3.
being to non-being.
From being to non-being.
Now, this sounds even more mysterious
It
than the
does.
previous
It does.
steps.
Yeah, this is where we get into like the really advanced territory.
Okay.
He's pointing to a state of transcendence
Right.
where the individual ego dissolves and we experience this profound sense of oneness
Oneness with everything.
with existence.
Is that even
That's
possible?
the big question.
For us mere mortals.
Yeah, and he doesn't offer any easy answers.
Right.
But he suggests that this final stage is something that unfolds naturally as we deepen our awareness
Yeah.
and let go of our attachment to the ego.
So it's not something you can force.
It's not something you can force or control.
It's just something that...
It's a state of grace
Okay.
that emerges as we surrender to the flow of existence.
Yeah. Trusting the process.
Trusting the process,
Mhm.
because letting go of the reins and allowing yourself to be guided by something larger.
Yeah.
And to kind of clarify this journey to freedom,
Okay.
he draws on the teachings of Atisha,
Atisha.
a Buddhist master,
Okay.
who talked about abandoning poisoned food.
Poisoned food.
Yeah, it's a really powerful metaphor that really resonates with Osho's teachings on letting go.
What do we mean by poisoned food?
So Atisha was using it as a symbol
Right.
for anything that harms our well-being physically, mentally, and spiritually.
Okay.
And he identified 3 levels of this poison food.
Okay, so give me the first level.
All right, so the first level, the physical level,
Yeah.
is pretty straightforward.
Okay.
It's the things we consume that literally harm our bodies.
All right, so like
Excessive alcohol, unhealthy foods,
Uggs.
too much sensory indulgence.
Okay, so just being mindful of what we're putting into our bodies.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Making choices that support our health and vitality.
Okay, what about level 2?
Level 2, the psychological level. Now, here Atisha's talked about the poison food of, like, negative thoughts,
Yeah.
limiting beliefs, and toxic emotions.
Right.
It's all the stuff that, like, clutters our minds,
Yeah.
weighs down our hearts, anger, jealousy, resentment, fear.
Yeah, we've all experienced that.
We've all been there.
It's like mental junk food.
It is.
Yeah, but how do we stop consuming it?
That's a good question. And that's where Osho's teachings on awareness
Yeah.
come in.
Okay.
He reminds us that we don't have to be ruled by our thoughts and emotions.
Right.
We can learn to observe them without judgment, to create that space between ourselves and those mental patterns.
Like creating a buffer
Yeah, creating a buffer
between us and...
between you and the crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So mental and emotional hygiene.
Yes, mental and emotional hygiene.
Okay, I like it.
Choosing to nourish ourselves with more wholesome fare.
Okay, level 3.
Level 3, the spiritual level.
Spiritual level. Okay.
This is the deep stuff.
Yeah.
So Atisha was pointing to the ego itself,
Ah,
the belief in a separate self
right.
that's constantly seeking validation, security, pleasure in the outside world.
Yeah, always looking for something outside.
Yeah, and this is the ultimate poison food because
This never ends?
it keeps you trapped in that cycle of craving and dissatisfaction.
Yeah, it's like trying to fill a bottomless pit.
It is.
Right, it doesn't matter how much you
It doesn't matter how much you achieve or acquire
get
or experience.
experience.
It's never enough
It's never enough.
to satisfy that deep yearning for wholeness.
Yeah, and this is where Osho's teachings on surrender
Yes,
and letting go becomes so important,
absolutely.
because he's telling us to abandon that false sense of self,
Yeah,
that egoic identity.
the egoic identity.
That's at the root of our suffering.
the source of the suffering.
Right.
And so it's like you're stepping out of the cage
Yeah.
of your own making.
Like we've created this cage for ourselves,
Yeah,
and we think that
and we think that's where the freedom is.
that's freedom.
But actually, true freedom lies in like merging back into the vastness of
Yeah.
existence
Okay, so we're being asked to surrender to something bigger than
to
ourselves.
something much greater.
Yeah, and to kind of trust that process.
To trust the process.
Trust the process.
Yeah, and this isn't about like becoming passive or resigning yourself
Right.
to a life of bland indifference.
Yeah, because he also talks about
He talks about,
living life fully.
yes, embracing each moment
Right.
with passion and intensity.
Passion and intensity. That seems a bit contradictory.
It might seem
But
contradictory.
letting go and surrender.
It might seem that way
Yeah.
at first glance.
Yeah.
But Osho saw intensity and surrender as like complementary forces.
So when we're fully present,
Yeah, when you're fully engaged
in those experiences.
with passion and gusto,
Yeah.
you're less likely to get caught up in the anxieties
Right.
and the worries of the mind.
We're too busy.
You're too busy living to be consumed by your fears and insecurities.
Exactly.
And this intensity, this zest for life,
Yeah.
actually fuels your spiritual growth.
So it's not about renouncing the world.
It's not about renouncing the
or
world,
denying ourselves pleasure.
No.
It's about
experiencing it fully
experiencing those things.
with awareness,
but without the attachment.
without the attachment.
Yeah. Okay, so now we're back to the idea of desire.
Yeah, we're back to desire.
And this is where it gets tricky, because sometimes he says it's a hindrance,
Yeah,
and sometimes he says it's this divine force.
he does.
You're
So how do we reconcile those two?
Yeah. How do we
Remember we talked about that distinction.
between the sunflower
Yes.
and
The
the
grasping,
wanting of the
the
thing?
wanting of the thing,
Yeah.
that pure longing, that natural yearning for expansion,
Yeah.
that's actually at the heart of all their desires.
Even the most mundane ones.
Even the most mundane
Okay,
ones. So even when you're craving that extra slice of cake
yeah.
or longing for a new pair of shoes,
Yeah.
there's a deeper, more spiritual yearning.
So it's misdirected.
It's misdirected.
That's what it is.
Those seemingly superficial desires
Right.
are often a misdirected attempt to fulfill that deeper longing
For wholeness.
for wholeness and connection.
Yeah, we're looking for love in all the wrong places.
We're looking for love in all the wrong places.
And that's why we're never satisfied.
And that's why it never quite hits the spot.
Yeah, because it's temporary.
It's temporary,
just
fleeting.
fun.
It might provide a little bit of pleasure
Right.
or gratification,
Yeah.
but ultimately it leaves you feeling empty
And wanting more.
and wanting more.
And then the cycle
As
continues.
the cycle continues.
So if we can tap into...
If you can tap into that pure longing,
Yeah.
that deeper yearning,
Yeah. Maybe we can find
more
a
lasting
more lasting source of fulfillment.
fulfillment.
Yeah.
And that's where his teachings on awareness and non-attachment come in again.
Awareness and non-attachment.
You got it.
Okay.
It's about becoming more conscious of your desires,
Okay.
to understand their true nature.
Why are we really craving this thing?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And to learn to relate to them in a more balanced way,
So not suppressing them,
not suppressing them.
but approaching them with a sense of
Awareness
and understanding.
and understanding.
Yeah.
And
well,
by
that-
cultivating this awareness,
Yeah.
you can start to discern between those desires that are truly serving you
Yeah.
and those that are keeping you stuck
In that cycle.
in the cycle of craving.
Okay, I like it.
Desire is not the enemy.
It's an ally.
It's a potential ally
Okay.
on the path to spiritual growth.
And speaking of spiritual growth, he also has some interesting insights on the nature of death itself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, this is a big one.
He doesn't shy away from it.
He doesn't shy away from the big topics.
Yeah, no, he doesn't.
He challenges that conventional view of death as an ending.
Yeah, we don't like to think about death.
We don't like to think about it.
But it's coming for us all.
It is.
So why not explore it?
Why not explore it?
Right.
So he suggests that it's a transition,
Okay.
emerging back into the wholeness,
So not an ending, but a transformation.
a transformation, a cosmic homecoming.
Yeah, a homecoming.
Yeah, and what's really fascinating
Okay.
is that he suggests this transformation
Yeah.
isn't something that only happens at the end of your physical life.
Okay.
It's happening in every moment.
Death is happening in every moment.
In every moment.
Okay. That's a little intense.
It's a little intense, but also incredibly liberating.
How so?
Yeah, he's pointing to the fact that we're constantly letting go of the past
Right.
and stepping into the unknown future.
Yeah.
Every breath you take
Yeah.
is a death and a rebirth.
So we're dying to the old.
Dying to the old.
And being reborn into the new.
And being reborn
all the time.
constantly.
Okay.
And this process of death and rebirth is happening on all levels of your being.
Yeah.
Physically, emotional, mentally, spiritually.
Wow. That is mind-blowing.
It is.
But if we can accept that.
If you can embrace it,
Yeah.
maybe you can approach the ultimate death with a little less fear.
Yeah. And more acceptance.
And more acceptance.
Right.
He encourages us to see death not as an enemy,
Yeah.
but as a friend. A natural part of life's cycle.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's not something to be afraid of.
Not something to be afraid of.
Just a natural part.
Just a natural transition.
A life.
And you know what's really beautiful about his teachings on death?
What's that?
They're not just theoretical.
Right.
He lived his life in a way that embodied this acceptance.
So he walked the walk.
He walked the walk. He was constantly challenging his followers to let go of their attachments and embrace the unknown.
Like that story we were talking about before.
Yes, like that realized master who felt like all his years of spiritual work
Who destroyed
spurred by that single teaching.
which was let go.
It was let go,
Yeah.
but it was even more radical than that.
Oh, okay. What was it?
It was let even the remedy itself go.
Let even the remedy itself go.
Yeah, so even more radical.
Okay, so
Because that master was so attached to his practice.
yeah,
He believed it was the key to his enlightenment.
right.
But the teaching was pointing to the danger of becoming attached even to our spiritual tools.
Right. So the things that we think are helping us.
The things that we think are helping us
Yeah.
can become crutches if we're not careful.
Yeah. And that's not true of anything in life.
It is.
Right? We can become attached to the thing.
To the idea.
Yeah, and it's like we're clinging to the raft.
Clinging to the raft.
After we've crossed the river.
Yeah, even though you're already on the other side.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to let go of the raft.
Exactly.
So the teaching was a reminder that we need to be willing to let go of everything.
Everything.
Even the things we think are helping us.
Yeah.
In order to experience true freedom.
Wow, that's a powerful message.
It is.
It seems like he's encouraging us to approach life with a sense of openness and curiosity.
Yes.
To be willing to let go of the known
Yeah.
and embrace the unknown,
Yeah.
both in life and in death.
Yeah, beautiful.
That's really the essence of his teachings.
It is.
It's this call to awaken to the truth of who we are,
Yeah.
to live with intensity
Intensity.
and passion,
Yeah.
and to embrace this journey of
Yeah.
life and death
With awareness.
and compassion.
Yeah. Beautifully said.
But he also seems to emphasize individuality,
Yes.
embracing our unique selves,
Absolutely.
and not conforming to societal expectations.
Yeah, that's huge for him.
How does that fit in?
That ties back to his teachings on freedom and rebellion.
Freedom and rebellion.
Yeah, he encourages us to question everything, to challenge the status quo,
Right.
and to live according to your own inner truth,
Yeah.
rather than blindly following the dictates of society.
So authenticity.
Authenticity.
Living a life that's in alignment.
Yes, living in alignment with your values.
With our values and passions.
Your passion.
Yeah. Instead of trying to fit into this mold
Instead of trying to fit into that predefined mold.
that society has created for us.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I think when we try to be someone we're not,
Yeah.
it's like we're putting on a mask.
We're putting on a mask.
And we're blocking the flow.
You're blocking the flow of your natural energy.
That's our true self.
And your creativity. So
Yeah.
he encourages us to take off the mask.
Take off the mask.
Drop the pretense.
And let our true selves shine through.
Let your true self shine through.
Understand.
And that acceptance of yourself,
Yeah.
that love for your own being,
Is the foundation for compassion.
that's the foundation for true compassion.
And love for others.
And love for others.
Yeah, because if we can't love ourselves.
How can you love anyone else?
Exactly.
And he emphasizes that this love for yourself, this self-acceptance,
Yeah.
is not about narcissism or egotism.
Okay.
It's about recognizing your inherent wholeness and worthiness,
Right.
which allows you to extend that same love and compassion to
So
others.
it overflows.
It overflows
over to the world.
It becomes a wellspring of love
Yeah.
that overflows into the world.
Yeah. And that's what we need more of
That's what we need.
in the world.
And that's key to his vision
Yeah.
of a more enlightened and compassionate world,
Where people are free to be themselves.
where individuals are free to be themselves,
Yeah. To express their creativity.
to express their unique creativity,
Yeah.
and to connect with each other
From a place of love.
from a place of love and understanding.
Yeah. What a beautiful vision.
It is a beautiful
An
vision.
antidote to.
Yeah, it's like an antidote to all the fear and division.
Yeah, that we see so much of
Yeah.
in the world today.
Mhm.
But I can imagine it's quite challenging
It's not always easy
to actually live out these ideas.
to embrace these radical ideas,
Yeah.
especially when they go against the grain of mainstream culture.
Yeah.
But that's where his emphasis on awareness and meditation comes in.
Yeah.
He saw meditation not just as a spiritual practice,
Right.
but as a tool for transforming our everyday lives.
Now, Osho had some pretty unconventional views on meditation as well.
He did.
Didn't he? Because I've heard he encouraged dancing and singing and even laughing
You heard, right?
as forms of meditation.
did.
So it's not.
He didn't believe that meditation was confined
Okay.
to any particular form or practice.
So it's about bringing that awareness.
Yeah, it's about bringing that quality of awareness
To everything.
to everything you do.
Yeah, walking,
Eating, walking, eating, making love.
Anything you do
Yeah.
can be done.
Can be a meditation.
With awareness?
With awareness.
Okay.
And his approach to meditation was very inclusive.
I love that.
He believed that everyone, regardless of their background or beliefs,
Yeah.
could benefit
On a meditative mind.
from cultivating a meditative mind.
Yeah. And it takes the pressure off.
It does.
Because it's not about achieving.
It's not about achieving some special states.
Yeah.
It's simply about being present.
Being present in your life.
Yeah, in your life, moment to moment.
Yeah. I love that.
And when you bring that quality of awareness into your life, everything changes.
Everything changes.
Everything changes. You start to see the world with fresh eyes.
Yeah.
You relate to your thoughts and emotions in a more balanced way.
Yeah.
You connect with yourself and others
Yeah.
on a deeper level.
Wow. So we've covered
We've covered a lot.
a lot of ground here.
Yeah.
We've talked about truth, the ego desire,
Death.
death, meditation. It feels like we've only just scratched the surface
I think we've only just scratched the surface.
Yeah.
There's so much depth
to his teachings.
to his teachings.
And I think one of the things that makes him so fascinating
Yeah.
is that he doesn't shy away from paradox.
No, he embraces the contradictions of life
Right.
and encourages us to do the same.
So it's okay to hold opposing ideas
It's okay to hold seemingly opposing ideas.
in our mind.
Yeah.
Right.
Embrace the mystery and complexity of existence.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where true wisdom lies.
And not in having all the answers.
Not in having all the answers.
For being comfortable with the questions.
but in being comfortable with the question.
With the not knowing.
With the not knowing.
Yeah.
And that's what his teachings ultimately offer. It's
Yeah.
an invitation
Yeah.
to embark on a journey of awakening,
Yeah.
to explore the depths of your own being.
To live a life that's both passionate,
Yeah.
compassionate,
Authentic.
authentic, and expansive.
It's been an incredible deep dive.
It has been an incredible deep dive.
I feel very inspired to learn more about
To explore his teachings
his
further.
teachings, yeah.
Yeah. But before we wrap things up, I'm still really curious to learn more about Osho himself, the man behind the teaching.
The man behind the message.
Yeah, what was he like
Yeah.
in person?
What was he like?
Yeah, and what kind of impact did he have on the world?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And that's what we're going to delve into in the final part
Okay.
of our deep dive.
All right, so stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
All right, so we're back and ready to wrap up our deep dive into the wisdom of Osho.
Yes, it's been quite a journey.
Yeah, from truth and ego to desire and death, we've covered a lot of ground.
And now it's time to kind of turn our attention
Yeah.
to the man behind the message, to Osho himself.
Right, so tell me, what was Osho like as a person?
Well, unconventional is definitely the word that comes to mind.
Unconventional, okay.
He was born in India in 1931,
Okay.
and even as a child, he was known for his kind of rebellious spirit and his insatiable curiosity.
Rebellious spirit, I like it.
Yeah, he questioned everything, challenged authority, and seemed to have this innate sense of knowing that went beyond the conventional wisdom of his time.
So a natural-born nonconformist.
You could say that, yeah.
Did that continue into adulthood?
Absolutely. It only intensified.
Okay.
So after studying philosophy
Right.
and traveling extensively, he began teaching in the 1960s,
Okay.
and his lectures quickly gained a following.
Okay.
But his teachings weren't your typical spiritual fare.
What do you mean?
Well, he challenged traditional religious dogma.
Okay.
He embraced sexuality
Right.
and sensuality
Yeah.
and advocated for a more individualistic.
So breaking the mold.
Yeah, he was definitely pushing boundaries.
I can see why he would have attracted so much attention and probably controversy, too.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
He was a controversial figure.
What were some of the key themes in his teachings?
Well, one of the central themes was the importance of meditation.
Meditation.
Yeah, he saw it as a tool for transforming our everyday lives.
Right, and he developed his own style of meditation, too, right?
He did. He developed a wide range of active meditation techniques.
Right, I've heard about these dynamic meditations.
Yeah.
Shaking and dancing and...
Shaking, dancing, shouting.
Yeah.
It's all about releasing pent-up emotions, breaking down old patterns.
Okay, so not just sitting quietly,
Not just sitting quiet.
but using movement and sound.
Yeah, using your body, using your voice to access that deeper state of awareness.
I like it.
And his approach was very inclusive.
Right.
He believed that everyone could benefit from cultivating a meditative mind.
Okay, but he wasn't just about meditation.
No, his teachings were a rich tapestry of ideas,
Yeah.
drawn from Eastern and Western philosophy, psychology, spirituality.
Yeah, it's all connected.
It's all connected. He encouraged his followers to question everything, to embrace their individuality, to live a life of passion and purpose.
But he must have had his fair share of critics.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
His teachings on sexuality,
Yeah.
his criticism of organized religion,
Right.
and even his lavish lifestyle
Okay.
attracted both passionate followers
Right.
and fierce detractors.
So very polarizing figure.
Very polarizing.
Yeah.
He was even arrested and deported from the United States in the 1980s,
Wow, deported from the United States.
which only added to his notoriety.
So he really lived a very colorful life.
He did a very colorful life.
Yeah. But what would you say was his most lasting legacy?
I think his most enduring contribution was his emphasis on awareness and meditation as tools for personal and societal transformation.
Right? So using those tools
To create positive change.
to better ourselves and the world around us.
Exactly.
Yeah, and even though he passed away in 1990,
Yeah,
his teachings continue to resonate with people all over the world.
they do. I think that speaks to the power of his message.
What do you think he would say about the state of the world today?
Oh, that's a good question. I think he'd probably encourage us to face these challenges with courage and compassion,
Yeah.
and maybe a little bit of humor.
Yeah, we could all use a little bit of humor these days.
And he would remind us that even in the midst of chaos, we have the power to choose love over fear,
Yeah.
connection over isolation, awareness over ignorance.
That's beautiful.
And for our listeners who are interested in learning more about Osho,
Yeah. What would you recommend as a good starting point?
well, there are so many wonderful resources available.
Yeah.
I would suggest starting with one of his books on meditation.
Okay.
Maybe Meditation, The First and Last Freedom.
Meditation, the first and last freedom.
It's a great introduction to his unique approach.
And there are tons of lectures.
Oh, tons of lectures.
And guided meditations online.
Guided meditations online. So yeah, plenty of ways to,
Plenty of ways to dive into the world of Osho.
yeah, explore his teachings.
Exactly.
All right, well, folks, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into the wisdom of Osho.
I hope you enjoyed the journey.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, and until next time.